Hi, I'm Terrence Bird. At Healthfirst, New Jersey, we believe everyone should be informed about the important healthcare issues that affect them and their families. That's why Healthfirst is proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship. PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. And by the law firm of Gibbons PC.
This is One-on-One.
That's good acting, man.
I get that a lot. I go to Atlantic City all the time, like, are you the guy? I go, no, I'm not.
This is one you can't afford to miss.
They thought that I wouldn't survive it, but I knew I would.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. More importantly, I'm going to introduce you to somebody I really had been looking forward to talking to for a long time. She is Laurie Fabiano. She has written a wonderful book called Elizabeth Street, a novel based on true events. Your first novel.
Yes, my
You have a
first novel.
fascinating background. You served as a deputy mayor of Hoboken. You have a background in nonprofit work. You're really smart, and you wrote this amazing book, Elizabeth Street, based in that's in New York City, right?
Yes.
And give people a sense of this, because you went about to write this story about your grandmother and your great-grandmother who came from Sicily.
Actually, Calabria.
Oh, excuse me, Calabria. And it has to do with the Black Hand, and for those of you who don't know what the Black Hand, that's the precursor, if you will, to the Mafia, and it has to do with so many other things. But it's a family story.
Right. It's a family
What
story.
is it, and why did you do it?
So when I was 16 years old, I was watching an old black and white movie with my grandmother, and she wasn't paying attention. She was knitting a peace sign for my jeans, which dates me, obviously. And all of a sudden, she caught wind of what was happening on the screen. Yes, that's me and Nanny.
Yeah.
And she dropped the knitting needles, gasped, and went running upstairs. And this was very uncharacteristic for my grandmother. She was very stalwart.
Was it a mob picture?
It was. It was called Pay or Die with Ernest Borgnine, and it was about Giuseppe Petrosino, or based on the life of Giuseppe Petrosino. So I went running upstairs, and I'm like, Nanny, what's the matter? And she said, I told you not to watch that Mafia stuff. I knew she hated anything Mafia related. And I said, Mom, it's not the, Nanny, it's not the Mafia, it's the Black Hand, they said. And she said, you know nothing. And she said, and I was like, why are you so upset? And she said, they killed him. I said, what are you talking about? A policeman in the film, they killed him. I said, did you watch the film? How do you know? And she said, no, it's my life too. And at that point, she just said, I was kidnapped and he helped our family, and I'm not going to talk about it. And so, of course, at 16 years old, this is all I wanted to talk about. This was an incredible revelation. But my grandmother was absolutely not going to talk about it. So I tried talking to her brothers. I tried talking to other older relatives, got the same stonewalling. It took 15 years of me trying to talk to her, trying to talk to relatives, and finally in her 80s, in fact, that photo that you saw was the day that I sat down and taped her for 12 hours talking about her life. And when we got to the part on the kidnapping, she said, turn that off, I won't talk. If that's on, I won't talk. And to this day, I feel badly that I lied to her and said it was off. But obviously, I'm glad that I got the story. Her memory was impeccable. She remembered every detail of the kidnapping.
She was kidnapped?
She was kidnapped.
By the Black Hand?
By the Black Hand. And she was one of the only...
For those, the Black Hand was the precursor to the mob.
Yes and no. The truth is the Black Hand was, the name the Black Hand was invented by the newspapers to sell more newspapers with creating Black Hand crime in the Lower East Side. And it was a moniker that tons and tons of gangs just took on. In truth, there was only one gang, the Lupo Morello gang, that could be said to be the precursor to the Mafia, but hundreds, literally hundreds of these unaffiliated gangs used the name Black Hand because it struck terror.
And they were not, quote, organized.
They were not organized.
It was not organized crime.
No. It was not organized crime at all.
But they would extort. They would tell merchants that if you did not pay protection money, that bad things would happen, and bad things happened.
Absolutely. There was tons of bombings in the Lower East Side, around Elizabeth Street. In fact, around Elizabeth Street, within a 3-year period, there were 42 bombings. I mean, could you imagine, you know, how we would react to that today? That was terrorism at its peak.
Here's the irony, sorry for interrupting. And there's so many, by the way, go out and get the book, because we're only touching on it for the PBS television version. One of the reasons you wrote this book is because you said that we in the media often romanticize the mafia. We are talking about Italians brutalizing, terrorizing other Italians.
That's right.
In their own neighborhoods. Honest, hardworking people.
Yep.
Big part of the story, no?
It's a huge part of this story, and I'm so glad you touched on that, because we have so romanticized the mafia. You know, The Godfather just started it, and there's virtually no, you know, of course there was a mafia. Was it as romantic as they've made it seem? Not even close. These were thugs. These were ignorant thugs. And the reason there were so many of them was Italy at the time had incredibly strong laws for parolees. So when you got out of jail, you had to check in every day at the police station. You couldn't go into a bar. You couldn't carry a weapon. So
who
they came
to
here.
the United States?
All, you know, every single parolee came to the United States, and they would, of course, be smuggled in on the ships, and to pay for their passage, they would do a job and move on to another city. So they would do these bombings, they would do these, you know, kidnappings, and they were ruthless because they were in flux, and the police really had no power, because the other thing is Italians absolutely didn't trust authority. They trusted each other. They trusted their own tribes, which tended to be their villages.
There's so many things going on in my head, because, and we're going to really not do justice to this, but one of the things in the book that strikes me is, and again, it's a novel based on true events, and I was trying to figure out who was who, but your grandmother. There's a part of the book, particularly early on, where there's a lot of tragedy in the early 1900s.
Yes.
Where one of the relatives comes here.
Right.
And there's a terrible accident. And it changes the course of the family dramatically.
Absolutely. So my great-grandmother's first husband, Nunzio, who she was madly in love with, came here first, like most men did in those days, to earn money and bring her over. He was killed building the Brooklyn Union gas tanks. He was crushed under 200 tons of steel, one of 5 men who was killed that day. It took me years to find that article, and the day that I finally found it in the New York Public Library and I cranked it up and saw his name was just, it was devastating. You know, in 1890, 90% of the public works workers were Italian, and that coincided with the great building of New York City. So most of the tunnels, the bridges, the infrastructure were built by Italians, but they were kind of treated like chattel or donkeys.
That's right.
And
by the way, he was educated. He was trained, and I think he was an architect or an engineer?
He was an engineer, which was very, very rare, but you know, he was starving to death. What was going on in Italy.
He did what he was told to earn money and send it back to Italy.
Correct. And then the story goes that my grandmother knew the moment he died, even though she was in Italy, and stopped speaking.
For a long time.
She was a town midwife, and she did not speak at all, and the people in town took up a collection to send her to America in hopes that if she saw his grave, she would begin to live again.
Can I ask you to do this? Could you tell folks why they should go out and get the book, whether they are Italian or not?
Because there's a lot of history here, and I think our history as a people is really just a collection of family stories. And unless we start telling these family stories, we're losing a big part of our history. And what's been incredibly gratifying about this is so many Italian Americans, and not just Italian Americans, Irish Americans as well, have said this has inspired me to go back, to look, and to tell my stories, as I hope you do too.
You've done something meaningful, and it's a wonderful book. I've enjoyed it, and I know others will too. It's called Elizabeth Street, a novel based on true events. Laurie Fabiano, I want to thank our good friends Ray and Sue Bermucci for introducing us to this book and to you. I wish you all the best.
Great, thank you very much.
You've done an important service.
Thank you.
We'll be right back right after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Joann Gonzalez-Generals is Executive Director of Student Success at Caldwell College. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
You look terrific, and you're doing important, terrific things up at Caldwell College. Hey, listen, we're talking about first-generation Hispanic students that you're trying to help up there, but the fact is you went to Passaic High School in New Jersey. You ran track and field. You were just telling me that, right? And you were the first one in your family. Why you? And did everyone say, "Hey, go get him, Joann, you're the one"? Was it like that?
No.
No, it wasn't like that. What was it like?
Well, I think as a first-generation college student, I think while your parents could be, very supportive, Steve, and in my case, my mother. I also grew up in a single-parent household.
Oh, you did?
So not only was I a first-generation, but I also grew up in a single-parent household. And while my mother was extremely supportive, Steve, it was really difficult for her. I mean, she took care of children and she cleaned homes for a living. She worked, very, very, long hours and very hard. And it was difficult for her to, help me navigate the college process.
So who helped you?
Extracurricular activities, I think that's important for first-generation students, well, students in general, actually. But for me, those extracurricular activities helped me. And in my case, it was track and field.
Yeah, but there's something else there. Sorry for interrupting, because there's Upward Bound you're a part of, which I've heard of. That's like a 70s, 80s thing, but it's always been there, right? Upward Bound was important to you.
Extremely important.
Tell folks what it was and
sure,
what it is.
Those Upward Bound is one of the federal TRIO programs, and they help, they assist really students who either are first generation, college students, low income students. There's one particular program, Student Support Services program, that also helps students who have disabilities. But in my case, I participated in Upward Bound when I was a junior in high school.
But preparing for what? Like SAT prep, things like
that?
They
had SAT prep, but it also exposes you. I actually lived on the campus of Montclair State for 6 weeks as a junior in high school.
Was that a big deal for you?
It was
like
a huge
not
deal.
Being home for the first time?
It was, but I was glad to, participate and, just be off campus, not off campus, on campus. I was on the Montclair State campus, and I think it was extremely important to expose me to, to college life and what campus life would be like. There are a lot of people, Steve. I have a colleague now who is taking her son to many different college campuses, for the last year in his junior year.
Right?
Right, it is. And for someone who's first generation who hasn't been exposed to that, who does that, right? Who does that for that first generation or low income student, right? It's someone else has to take the place. So this program is important.
So you're seeing it now, okay, up at Caldwell. You're seeing it now. You're seeing these students who are first generation, right? They're going for the first time. And you're obviously using a lot of your own experience. Tell me what a lot of them are facing and tell us how you're helping them up there.
Well,
is it money?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, coming from a household that was low income, that's an important factor. Students, find it difficult. I mean, any student.
So
but
financial aid is big.
Financial aid is big, but we helped them. For example, we held a winter session just a 3-week session where we helped students really just take a course over if they didn't do so well, or just to refresh their skills, and we gave it to them for free at Caldwell because for free during the winter session, because we know that if you're comfortable, financially, you're more likely to persist.
That's a lot in your head if you're not.
It's not. If
you're always worrying about paying that bill.
Sure.
So there's that part. How about acclimating just to college life?
Right.
Like
well,
socially.
That's a good question. We have a lot of courses, a lot of colleges, Stephen, have student success courses. Ours at Caldwell College is a freshman seminar course, and and a lot of colleges have these student success courses, but at Caldwell, ours is the freshman seminar, and it is taught by full-time faculty, which is rare. You know, most colleges have 85 sections or 90 sections of a freshman seminar or college, student success course. But it's special because we really help students transition from high school to college. We help them, we cover topics including time management, test-taking skills, learning strategies, diversity.
How about just learning to study?
Right, learning to study.
Which is different in high school versus college.
Sure, we cover all of that in freshman seminar, and the freshman seminar instructors see them on a weekly basis. That alone is a best practice. When you have a full-time faculty member, Steve, that you see every single week, that is the best practice, because the more students have contact with a full-time faculty member, the more likely they are to persist.
But there's another thing I'm thinking, because they're first-time students, first generation Hispanic students, I would imagine that some of the parents involved here have some challenges here too.
Definitely. We actually held our parent orientation over the weekend, this past weekend.
It had to be interesting for you.
It is. It always is. It always is. And we had, a good 100 parents or so on campus, and we had a panel presentation, for the parents, really just to give them a peek inside the freshman year. What is your son or daughter going to experience their first year? What are they going to see? And I explained to them, and it's important. Parental involvement and that engagement is really important, and especially for a first generation college student, because they don't know how to guide their son or daughter. They're extremely worried.
Are you trying to reassure? Is it about reassuring them?
Yes, and I did, and that's exactly what I did. I reassured them, because we have faculty that care. We have a student outreach system. When we see in the classroom, when a faculty member sees behavior that might interfere with their progress academically, the faculty member contacts the Center for Student Success. I am the executive director of Student Success, so they contact our office to report any type of behavior, extensive absences. So we have an outreach system. We have the freshman seminar course. We give freshmen midterm grades. That's not, that
you
doesn't
don't want to
necessarily
get it too far behind. You don't want it to become too big of a problem.
Right, and it's not a progress report. We actually give midterm grades so that freshmen know exactly where they stand at midterm time.
You love what you do, I could tell.
I love what I do, Steve, because it's I know how difficult it is. And firsthand. And I also, one of the other programs that I didn't mention before, Steve, that I participated was EOF. I was also an EOF student, Education Opportunity Program. Also, a program that helps disadvantaged students. We have a program at Caldwell. I was also participating in the EOF program. So all of these summer enrichment programs do help, and I am evidence of that.
Joann Gonzalez-Generals, Executive Director of Student Success at Caldwell College. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Keep it up. We all need a helping hand.
Thank you.
One-on-One will continue right after this. Stay with us.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Dena Seidel is Director of Center for Digital Filmmaking at Rutgers University. Good to see you.
Honored to be here, Steve.
Well, it's good to have you. We are partners in working with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, looking at childhood obesity, and you and your team are working on a documentary called Generation at Risk. As we talk right now, you're doing this documentary that looks at the problem. We're about to show a clip from it, and we'll come back and talk. But listen, this obesity problem with children is huge. It is a massive problem. But the difference with this documentary is it doesn't only document the seriousness of the problem in the state of New Jersey, but it also talks about some of the solutions. Let's look at the clip, and then we'll talk to Dena.
1 in every 2 of these kids is projected to come down with adult onset diabetes.
New Jersey has the worst incidence of childhood obesity in the entire United States.
How many of you worry about obesity in your families or in yourselves?
You have some of the most vulnerable populations in our country who are going to live sicker and die younger than previous generations. They just told me that I should eat better, then I could probably get rid of my diabetes.
The supermarkets are not close to where we live at. You don't want to walk because it takes about an hour to get to the supermarket.
When I first was diagnosed with diabetes, I thought that it was going to be the end of my life. I didn't think I would get at a young age.
It's what you call a systems failure. It's costing us $2.2 billion a year. We have to solve childhood obesity.
It's a powerful documentary. What else are you seeing out there?
We're seeing some incredible collaboration right now. There have been a lot of food documentaries over the last 3 or 4 years looking at the problem, and the problem is acute and complex. But what we're seeing are a lot of grassroots initiatives. And then I'm at Rutgers, and at Rutgers there's the creation of the Institute for Food, Nutrition, and Health, which is
the Institute for Food, Nutrition, and Health.
The New Jersey Institute for Food, Nutrition, and Health, which is an intentionally interdisciplinary research hub. So you have researchers from a lot of different backgrounds coming together to work together to look at this problem as a complex systems failure. So there's the researchers at the university partnering with Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and then there's a lot of these community initiatives, really amazing local heroes who are out there trying to solve obesity from different angles, because of course it's so complicated. You can have a program that is working to increase food from farm to the city, you can increase exercise, you can offer cooking classes, but you have to sort of look at it as a complex problem and address it as with a sort of multi-pronged solution.
It's interesting how the way I introduced this segment, Dena, as I said, that while there are other documentaries looking at childhood obesity, one of the differences here with this documentary is you really are trying to focus on solutions, correct?
Yes, exactly.
And by the way, it is a 3-year initiative?
It's our documentary.
Yeah.
Our documentary project is a 3 to 5 year documentary project. We have support to keep following all of these different initiatives because this is such a complicated problem, and it's so important to the people of New Jersey. I mean, this is about the health of our children. And
but
the future
following,
of our children.
Explain that part. Following what?
Well, we're following the partnerships and the collaboration. So the New Jersey Institute for Food, Nutrition, and Health is a signature initiative of Rutgers University. It has support from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. So we started learning about the complexity of childhood obesity from this interdisciplinary research team. And our documentary team, which is at the Rutgers Film Bureau, which I am the director of the Film Center. I get to work with my students to make long-form documentary projects. We are character-driven stories, so we're not making promotional videos. We are following people over time. These are journeys. These are character arcs.
But you're going outside of Rutgers because you're looking at other organizations. Talk about some of the other organizations that are involved in this fight, this war, if you will,
trying
to fight childhood obesity. What kind of organizations are you looking at over time?
We're looking at different community initiatives. So in that clip that you just saw, there was Lizanne Finston, right, from Elijah's Promise. You heard
Elijah's Promise.
That's right. That's in New Brunswick. We have a family there. We're following different families over time, because one thing we realized as we learned about the complexity of the problem from, again, this interdisciplinary research team, we realized we had to go out into the community and start listening to the families and to the community organizers, these local heroes who are working very, very hard to address this problem. We have to understand from them what it means to be dealing with this problem on a day-to-day basis. You know, childhood obesity is a threat on so many levels, right? There's the food-related illnesses. This is diabetes, as we know, heart disease, but also there's direct links to cancer now that we're seeing.
Direct links to cancer.
Over time, there's food-related illnesses. The researchers are seeing there's a more and more of a connection to certain types of cancer.
What about also, you're also going into schools?
That's right.
There are learning issues here. There are educational issues here dealing with childhood obesity, are there not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, childhood obesity, it's such a multi-factorial.
It's not an issue.
No, it's not. It's a whole systems failure, isn't it? So you can't just give fresh fruits and vegetables to children and families and say this is going to solve it. I mean, we have one of the families that you just saw in our film, the Rivera family. That young girl at age 17 was diagnosed with diabetes. Now, this is a hardworking family. They care about their children. They are working hard. They even have a garden where they're growing their own fresh fruits and vegetables, but there's no store in their neighborhood for them to have access to affordable, healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables. The neighborhood is not someplace that they can let their kids walk around and play. So we know that diabetes is, type 2 diabetes is preventable, but for some families living under these situations, it's almost unavoidable.
Go back to the school issue, because with all these health-related issues, a child begins to miss school. A child is not totally present when he or she is in school. All sorts of issues there, right? But are you in schools as well?
Absolutely. You saw us in one of the Camden schools there, and we have, that was one of the charter schools.
Excuse me, are you targeting certain communities where you are? Because I know that Newark, Trenton, and Camden are important parts of this initiative. Is that where you are?
Yes, we're in all of these places right now, and we have access through the New Jersey Partnership for Healthy Kids, and that is again supported by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. They're partnering with us to make this documentary. So we're absolutely outside of Rutgers, but what we're finding as we're going out into the community and hearing from the families in the community initiatives, that information is going back to the researchers and informing the researchers at Rutgers, and the documentary process in itself is sort of inspiring this two-way conversation between community, families, and interdisciplinary research and science. Because of course, in order to solve this problem, Steve, all of these people have to work together, right? I mean, you need this sort of nexus of initiatives coming together to look at the complexity of this problem, and it's only through this type of collaboration that we can imagine a solution.
When is the, I don't want to say the end, when can people see it?
We're expecting this film to be done in, again, 3 or 4 years.
We'll come back then. I'm sorry for interrupting. We'll come back then, we'll do more.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship. PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. And by the law firm of Gibbons PC. Promotional support provided by NJ Biz, All Business, All New Jersey. And by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and its monthly magazine, New Jersey Business. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.
Healthfirst New Jersey Medicare Plan is growing in the Garden State. Thousands of members in Bergen, Essex, Hudson, Passaic, and Union counties depend on Healthfirst New Jersey Medicare Plan. And in January 2012, Healthfirst New Jersey Medicare Plan will be available in Somerset and Middlesex counties as well. If you're eligible for Medicare and live in New Jersey, find out more about Healthfirst New Jersey Medicare Plan. Healthfirst New Jersey Medicare Plan. Feel good about your healthcare coverage.
Hello, I'm Rafael P. Roman.
And I'm Steve Adubato.
Join us every week on New Jersey Capitol Report.
Because we'll ask the questions that you want and need answered.